This Place in History. We're on the Town Common in Newfane with Steve Perkins, the Executive Director of the Vermont Historical Society. Steve, what brings us here this week?
Well, Mike, we're going to dive into Windham County history with the Windham County Historical Society. Of course, we're on this beautiful common, National Historic Landmark. We're going to go inside. We're going to talk to Dick Merrick, who's president of the Windham County Historical Society. We're inside what's going to be the new museum here for the Windham County Historical Society. One of the oldest, if not the oldest, historical societies in Vermont.
Human life here goes back perhaps 13,000 years because there's a site 15 miles east of Brattleboro that's been carbon dated to that period. We have artifacts going back perhaps 8,000 years that we know of from Windham County. The first permanent European settlement in Vermont is in Windham County. It was Fort Dummer in what has now become Brattleboro, followed by the birthplace of Vermont, which was in Westminster. The site, first of all, of the Westminster Massacre, part of the controversy between New York and New Hampshire as to who actually owned Vermont, followed by the first Vermont Declaration of Independence in Westminster in 1777, and then the first Constitution of Vermont.
Now, Dick, we can see behind us there is a lovely quilt that has not just a decorative purpose, but an informative purpose too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to. Well, first of all, it lists every town. It has initials for every village. This was a gift that happened to fall into our lap about a year ago. I immediately thought of all the things we could have for an entry exhibit. This is it. Newfane is directly in the middle of the county, and we became the shire town or county seat in 1787. And we were initially up on top of the hill about 1.5 miles from here, probably for defensive purposes. When the first two young men came up here in 1766 with their axes and their guns and a camp kettle and started clearing, they did it up on top of the hill, which was much safer.
So Dick, to get a view of that, there's a gorgeous view of Newfane Common and that hill from upstairs. I think we should go upstairs and you can point out some of the landscape.
This is actually the National Historic District. Part of the front of the Newfane Inn came down off the hill. The courthouse was built at the same time this was, when the common was dedicated. The Congregational Church right between, and then what is called the Union Hall, which was originally built as a joint church for all the congregations, where depending on how much you donated for pews, you got a certain number of days in the pulpit.
So if people want to learn more about Windham County and visit, how do they do that?
We would welcome people to come here. We are, as I think some of your filming will show, we are in a construction mode right now.
Right.
We normally open our previous museum, which we built in the 1930s. We normally open Memorial Day. My hope is by about the beginning of October, we will be able to do a grand opening.
The soon-to-be new home of the Windham County Historical Society originally served a very different purpose. We'll look at that next week at This Place in History.
Local news that matters.